waiting on Mommy to get on here. If you've not been here before, welcome to our channel. My name is Elizabeth, and I am your friendly hillbilly host. And this is Hillbilly Crime. We've got Sweet Tater here with us too. She'll be getting on here in just a second. And we kind of had a little hiccup with our song, y'all. So sorry we couldn't play it tonight. But I'm getting on that as soon as we get off of this, and we will have it ready to go tomorrow. Again. All right. Everybody, we've still got a whole bunch of people already in here today. Butterfly kisses. Hello, everybody. Cindy from sunny South Florida. It's still cold and snowy up here in Kentucky. Hello, everyone. Marnie. Miss Tina's here. I hope everybody's staying warm. Yes, if you don't care, hit that like button for us. It really helps our channel grow and get us out in front of more people. We only need 250 more people to hit 10,000. So that's an exciting accomplishment. And it's only because of you guys. Thank you for being here. My cats are already starting. Yes, whippoorwill, forfeiture, a subject dear to my heart. Not. I have got the 2012 audit for the Sheriff's Department. So that year would be under Danny Webb, the previous sheriff. And I also have the 2023 Sheriff's Department audit under Mickey. And so we're going to take a look at those and see compare them and look and see what the state auditor has commented or what their report shows. I was very surprised when I went through the 2023 on the forfeiture. I was very surprised. I didn't want to read this article until Mommy gets on here, but she might have to catch up. All right, so let me pull up this article. Let's see, Sweet Tater. Okay. She said she didn't even notice that it was time. All right, so we have this article here that I found very, very interesting, and so will you. This is what I was saying a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the forfeiture funding and how very few agencies in Kentucky even report. They don't even send a report in that can be tracked. And in my mind, I didn't remember the exact numbers, but I remember it being such a big number that to me, it was like 90% of the agencies and when we read this article, we're going to get the actual number. But in my mind, it made such an impact on me that I was thinking like up to 90% of our agencies in the state of Kentucky were not turning in any report. Okay. I was looking at an article in a local newspaper not long ago, and they were giving accommodations to two of the Letcher County Sheriff's deputies for a rug bust that they were involved in, where one night netted $180,000 worth of stuff. It was $180,000 bust. Where's that money going? All these pictures that we were looking at on here last night, all them pictures that we went through and I showed you of where they lay it all out on their desk and take a picture of it and post it on Facebook and show everybody this is what we're taking off the streets. Well, where was it going? Because I have big questions. There's Mommy. I have big questions where it was all going, where it is all going. You had the live-in health aide to Edison Banks, who was our prosecutor, our Commonwealth prosecutor. So that's like the top dog, right? He's the state prosecutor, or state level. And that girl's living in his house right now. She had power of attorney. She got caught, 2 or 3 different times with an obscene amount of rugs in her vehicle by state police and lowers. And she never got, I don't know if she was charged, but she was never, I don't think she was even charged. I think they were trying to charge her, but the Bell County prosecutor wouldn't do it. Mickey was the one trying to push that. So anyway, my questions are, that's what this article is about, Mommy. It's about, here, we're going to read it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Seized. This is November 29th, 2018. So this is even, this isn't something that's just now becoming a problem. This has been a problem for a long time.
So this is from when? What year?
November 29th, 2018 was when this article was published.
Okay. Get up
Seized. Few Kentucky police agencies report what they take through asset forfeiture. All right. A housekeeper at a St. Matthew's hotel happened upon the stacks of cash sealed in shrink wrap and stashed in room 403. Alongside a money counter and a lockbox, it seemed suspicious. Hotel management called St. Matthew's police, who examined the cash and suspected it was tied to rug trafficking. Court records show that St. Matthew's seized the cash, all $193,049 of it. That single bust brought in more cash than other agencies like Paducah or Somerset police departments, which are very big police departments, especially compared to here. Like Paducah or Somerset police departments did in 5 years of seizures. But while officials in Paducah, there you are. While officials in Paducah, let me find my place again. Sorry, I had to go over and let Mommy back in.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I don't know where I was at. There it is. And Somerset reported seizure details to the state every year since fiscal year 2013. St. Matthew's never reported at all. Kentucky law allows law enforcement agencies to take and keep cash or property when they suspect it's related to rug trafficking. So that's a whole lot of asset forfeiture that they're getting in this county. You better believe it. The practice is called asset forfeiture. And in fiscal years 2013 to 17, law enforcement agencies have reported seizing at least $36 million from people across Kentucky. And that's just the ones that reported. But it's unclear just how much was actually taken. Of 323 law enforcement agencies listed in statewide data, only 11%. See, I was right. I said it was like 90%. Only 11% reported the details of their seizures each year as required by law. So who's not making them do this? That seems like that's a 90% of your law enforcement agencies are not abiding by that. And that's a whole lot of money that's coming up missing. The lack of reporting stems from ignorance of the law. Competence, people. We have got to hire competent people, elect competent people for these positions. Because if we don't, if we keep hiring our daughter, you had two officers that were just hired on Letcher County Sheriff's Department, and both of them, they right behind them, they hired one of them's grandson and hired the other one's daughter. I just saw them in Jenkins today shopping in their Letcher County Sheriff's Department cruiser. Whatever the reason, the dearth of transparency troubles lawmakers, police proponents, and civil liberty advocates. Let me finish reading that up there. I think I forgot to finish that. The lack of reporting stems from ignorance of the law, oversight, and sometimes a breakdown in communication with state officials, according to interviews with officials at more than a dozen agencies across Kentucky. Transparency is vital, said Robert Frommer, senior attorney with the Institute for Justice, a Washington, D.C. based libertarian advocacy group. Without knowing what's going on, you can't make sure police are pursuing justice rather than profit. When you can't track the money, somebody's got their hand in it. In Kentucky, Frommer said law enforcement need only a slight evidence of traceability. That property is tied to illicit activity in order for it to be subject to forfeiture. That's an incredibly low standard, he said. The deck is stacked against property owners. A perverse incentive. St. Matthews Police Department versus Kong Pang Bang and United States currency. So that's a civil lawsuit filed by St. Matthews Police after seizing suspected rug money. And then that image was from the court records, it says. State law says any proceeds presumed to be related to buying or selling rugs are subject to forfeiture. This means any cash gained from the rug trade or property used to make or store rugs could be seized by police. When St. Matthews police detectives took the hotel cash in February 2018, they filed a civil suit against the man renting the room. And his co-defendant was $193,049 in United States currency. They brought no criminal charges. So they took all the money and didn't even charge the people. The man was arrested months later and charged with rug trafficking in another county, according to court records. But there was no mention of that rug arrest when a judge ordered that St. Matthews Police could keep 85% of the seizure and kick the rest to the prosecutor's office. Holy Toledo. So they can do that. They can give the police 85% of it and then give the prosecutor's office 15%. That's in Kentucky, people. Kate Miller, advocacy director for the American Civil Liberties Union of Kentucky, said the lack of reporting is problematic, especially in light of police seizures becoming revenue. It puts in place a perverse incentive that makes Kentucky particularly vulnerable to instances of corruption and abuse of power, Miller said. The funds are released after a criminal case is resolved or a judge orders it. Law enforcement agencies that submitted required reports to the state's Office of Drug Control Policy kept $17.5 million in seizure funds in that 5-year span, according to the state data. From a law enforcement perspective, the seizures help bolster budgets, said Independent Police Department Chief Anthony Lucas, who is also president of the Kentucky Association of Chiefs of Police. Lucas said these funds can help agencies fill budgetary holes. He said his department spent seizure money recently on new protective vests and bicycles. That saved the city money, he said. But Lucas's own agency also failed to report 3 years worth of seizure data. Lucas said he wasn't aware of that. The law requires agencies to report to the state's auditor of public accounts and the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet a detailed listing of all money and property seized. A review of data provided by the Kentucky Office of Drug Control Policy, part of the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet, shows the Louisville Metro Police Department reported seizing $19.4 million in cash in 5 years, more than half of all reported cash seizures statewide, according to the data. The Louisville Police Department also seized nearly 350 vehicles and more than 6,400 pew-pews. Asset forfeiture. Kentucky statutes allow law enforcement agencies to seize cash, cars, pew-pews, and other property if officers suspect it came from proceeds of drug trafficking. And then you've got cash, agencies. Let's see. Kentucky Office of Drug Control Policy data. And then it's got real property, seizures, and it's just got percentages and stuff like that. I put the links to these in the description if anybody wants to go and read it themselves. The Jeffersontown Police Department also submitted reports each year showing just more than $1.7 million in cash, 115 vehicles, and 192 pew-pews seized in 5 years, according to the data. Unbelievable. But the vast majority of Kentucky's law enforcement agencies report sporadically, if at all. Of 323 law enforcement agencies listed in the state's database, 36 agencies submitted that required report every year for fiscal years 2013 through 17. The state's data also doesn't include every law enforcement agency in the state. Numerous law enforcement agencies contacted by Kentucky CIR confirmed that they have been seizing cash, cars, or property without reporting, such as St. Matthews, where the police didn't report that hotel seizure or any other seizure in likely a decade, according to Major Eddie Jones. Jones said the failure to report was just an oversight, and his department began working to get in compliance after a reporter asked. He doesn't expect any consequences of 4 years of failing to follow the law, though. I think state officials are just happy to get another agency on board, he said. If there are ramifications, they're not enforced. Nobody's afraid because there's absolutely zero oversight or enforcement. Who's going to enforce it? Agencies don't report and nothing happens. The Kentucky Office of Drug Control Policy's Executive Director, Van Ingram, declined interview requests through Mike Wynn, spokesperson for the Kentucky Justice and Public Safety Cabinet. Wynn said in an emailed statement that the Office of Drug Control Policy collects forfeiture reports to the fullest extent allowed by law. Kentucky law makes clear that the responsibility to report asset forfeiture rests solely with the local agency, and it does not provide any enforcement mechanism to ensure compliance, Wynn said in an emailed statement. This is from the court records, says number 2. Any agency failing to report, this is looks like it's going to be a statute, so this is a law. Any agency failing to report as required by this section shall be liable to the state for the full value of all property and money so seized. The Attorney General shall institute civil actions for recovery of money or property obtained, retained in violation of that statute. Wynn said the law's language as written does not establish any process for the Office of Drug Control Policy to assert enforcement authority. State law says agencies that don't report shall be liable to the state for the full value of all property and money so seized. The Attorney General can institute civil actions to recover the money, the law says, and the Auditor's Office or Justice and Public Safety Cabinet Secretary could initiate an inquiry. A spokesperson for the Auditor of Public Accounts said only 2 agencies have submitted reports in the last year outside of those departments under audit. Terry Sebastian, spokesperson for the Kentucky Attorney General's office, said neither state agency has contacted his office about initiating an investigation for failing to report. Wynn said the department sends postcards and other notifications reminding agencies of their duty to report. But in Bullitt County, the lead narcotics officer at the sheriff's office said he still didn't know about the requirement. Bullitt County reported seizing just more than $108,000 in the 2016 fiscal year, but it didn't report anything in the other 4 years reviewed by Kentucky CIR. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Habib, who commands the agency's drug task force, said he didn't know who filed that 2016 report or that he needed to report to the state. I maybe should know, but no one has relayed this information to me, said Habib, a former Louisville narcotics detective who trains other detectives and owned a police training company in Letcher County. Oh, here we go, guys. In Letcher County, the sheriff's department filed reports for 4 years, a total of almost $145,000, but submitted no report for fiscal year 2017. I'm going to plead ignorance. I don't have a clue what that law is, said Letcher County Chief Deputy Barry Engel. Engel said he was recently promoted to the chief deputy role. His predecessor was convicted for stealing pew-pews and cash from the evidence locker. That was Brian Dameron. Both Habib and Engel said they'd reach out to state officials for guidance after being contacted by a reporter. This article right here shows us that Letcher County Sheriff's Office knew that they had to report. The Kenton County Sheriff's Office has seized assets but failed to report twice between 2013 and 2017, according to Jerry Knockelman, the agency's chief financial officer. It was probably just an oversight on our part, Knockelman said. I'm sure it was. Other officials blamed prior leadership for failing to report seizures to the state. In Callaway County, the sheriff's office didn't disclose any seizures for the 2013 to 16 fiscal years. I don't know why the other sheriff didn't report, said Callaway County Sheriff Sam Steger, who took office in 2015. The agency reported seizing more than $64,000 in 2017 fiscal year. The lack of reporting from law enforcement agencies across the state surprised and shocked Chip Nowlin, president of the Kentucky Peace Officers Association. He said oversight is critical to avoid abuse and ensure checks and balances. They better have everything on the up and up. Otherwise, it could be bad, he said. I would think there would be quality control. Remember, the same assistant has been in the Letcher County Sheriff's Office for the last two sheriffs. Mickey kept the girl that did all of the paperwork and did all of that stuff. I don't know if she was responsible for this, but at least she would have at least known to tell Mickey that this is something you have to do. I would think anyway. Other agencies contacted by Kentucky CIR insisted they did report their seizures, but the Kentucky Office of Drug Control Policy didn't include their data in its annual report. Hopkinsville Police Department Deputy Chief Michael Cease couldn't explain why state data shows his agency failed to submit a report for 2017. Cease provided Kentucky CIR with a report that shows the Hopkinsville Police Department seized nearly $89,000 in 2017. That's way too much money not to have reported. The report was sent to state officials soon after the fiscal year ended, he said. This is news to me, he said. I don't want to call anybody out, but that's very odd. When the spokesperson for the state's Justice and Public Safety Cabinet did not address the discrepancies. In a statement, he said, if any agency believes that past reports were not received, we will always accept reports retroactively. In legislature, some talk, but no action, as usual. While the issue has drawn criticism, it hasn't gained much traction in Kentucky's legislature. State Rep. Diane St. Ong, a Republican from Fort Wright, proposed a bill in 2016 that would have removed some funding from agencies that didn't disclose their seizures to the state, but it died in the House Judiciary Committee without a hearing. St. Ong didn't return calls for comment. State Senator Whitney Westerfield, a Republican from Hopkinsville and chair of State Judiciary Committee, said reforming asset forfeiture isn't a top priority among legislatures, at least right now. And that would be a whole big pocket of funding that if they did reform it, they'd probably be able to save a ton just in waste, fraud, and abuse. Just, being able to wipe that out. And it just takes enforcing the policies that you already have. I mean, that's the problem. They've already got laws. They've already got policies for this stuff, but nobody's abiding by it. And when they don't abide by it, there ain't nobody above them to make them abide by it. And they get the money. It's not complicated, said Westerfield, who has worked as a prosecutor in Christian County and completed forfeiture requests. You just fill out some paperwork. Westerfield said he considers the current law to be sound and he supports the premise of asset forfeiture. It's an important tool for law enforcement and prosecutors, he said, but it can't be recklessly abused. Kentucky State Senator Damon Fair, a Republican from Georgetown and majority floor leader, said there is a movement of people from both sides of the political aisle looking to institute some asset forfeiture reform. And though he doesn't consider himself part of it, he does support examining existing laws and potentially making changes. Because I don't think it's right for law enforcement to be able to take assets from an individual who's accused of a crime if they haven't yet been found guilty, he said in an interview this week. That's a big loophole, you guys. And, this might not mean much to most of us out here until it happens to us. That's the way it usually goes. We have to become a victim ourselves before we, start paying attention. Because and Thayer of Georgetown said the lack of reporting from law enforcement agencies across Kentucky makes it hard to get a real handle on the issue. He said he would support studying the issue if his fellow Senate Republicans wanted it, he said. Outgoing state Senator Ray Jones, the second, he's from Pikeville, a Democrat from Pikeville, expects any reform related to asset forfeiture to be met with reluctance from prosecutors and law enforcement agencies who have come to depend on the practice to help bolster budgets. Jones, who served 18 years on the Senate Judiciary Committee, said the practice shouldn't be used to fund the state's criminal justice system. And more so, he said, it raises ethical issues when prosecutors and law enforcement agencies who are directly involved with determining what is seized and forfeited benefit from the program. Until you adequately fund state government agencies, I think you're going to see a lot of reluctance, he said. It will be hard to pass any kind of reform on asset forfeiture. And that's one of our senators saying that. You'd think he'd be more behind it, but he ain't. Okay. So now we're going to listen to this real quick.
Controls over a new state audit highlights deficits, a lack of controls over finances, and other problems at the Letcher County Sheriff's Office. The department's finances created some tense moments during last night's meeting of the Letcher County Fiscal Court. Letcher County Sheriff Danny Webb asked the court to consider an increase in county funding to the department. As WYMT's Matthew Rand reports, County Judge Executive Jim Ward told the sheriff there's no room in the county budget.
In the report, state auditors say the sheriff's department needs to enact measures that include improving controls over receipts and payroll, eliminating a $23,000 deficit in the 2011 fee account, and putting an end to commingling money with other public funds to cover expenditures. Sheriff's Department officials say the sheriff asked the fiscal court for $60,000 to cover hazardous duty retirement, which Judge Executive Jim Ward calls double retirement.
They could give up the double retirement and fix their own problems internally. They can elect to do that.
Auditors also found that on 2 occasions, money from drug investigations went missing from evidence. With no additional funding available in the county budget, Ward says he would have to take the money from the pockets of county workers.
I refuse to lay county employees off or cut their health insurance or not pay their retirement so that the sheriff and his department can have double retirement. I refuse to do that.
3 Sheriff's Department employees already received layoff notices earlier this month.
I'm worried if I'm going to have a job. And so is everyone else. I don't want to see anybody lose their job, regardless who it is.
Sheriff's Department officials say more layoffs and cuts to services are likely. In Letcher County, Matthew Rand, WYMT Mountain News.
Judge Ward also noted that over the last 8 years, the fiscal court has paid more than $2.7 million to help fund the sheriff's office. Sheriff Danny Webb was not immediately available for comment. You can read the auditor's report later this evening on our website, WYMT.com.
$2.7 million. That is the number that I have been telling you, and I got it from this report right here. So when Danny Webb was sheriff, our fiscal court gave them $2.7 million because they kept coming up short, I guess. And he refused. That was Jim Ward. He was our judge executive who was over all the magistrates that are in the different districts of the county. And it's their job to run the money of the county, right? So I really liked Jim Ward. I didn't realize exactly how much I did like him until after he was until after somebody else was voted in. What do you think, Mommy?
I don't know how long, I don't know how many we've had since him.
He was the one right before Mickey.
Well, he was judge executor, so it would be before Adams.
Well, oh, you're talking about the judge executive. I thought you was talking about the sheriff.
Yeah.
All right, so this is, let me make it bigger. This is the report of the audit of the Letcher County Sheriff's Settlement 2012 taxes for the period of April 17th, 2012 through April 16th, 2013. So this would have been during Danny Webb's time as sheriff. Now, we went through and read just about all of this stuff on the last audit that we looked at. So I'm not going to read all this stuff again. I will put all of these documents that we get on our Patreon. So if you're not a member of our Patreon, you can come. I'll have the cases that we cover, and then I'll put all of the corresponding documents up with those cases. So you guys can go in there and look through any of them you're on your own. If you're a member of the Patreon, you can look at anything we got. If you're not a member of our Patreon, then you can look at one at a time if you choose to do that. But, all right, so let's see what you guys are saying before we get started.
Okay. This is what
Tammy. Tammy says, my goodness, this county should have a facility as big as a Amazon warehouse to store and log all these things if it is actually true. Or is it made by AI photos to post on their Facebook? No. But that's a good
yeah.
thought. I never did think about that. But no. And I also thought about something else too. Some of these kind of these ideas or theories that we may have, you know, I think sometimes we give people too much credit. I think a lot of times you have people who aren't really very smart, or they're very easily influenced, or they don't know a lot about something, so they'll look up to somebody else, and then they copy or mimic off of them, right? They get trained by them instead of having some kind of formal training of your own to go by, you know, understanding what policies are and why they are needed. So we all pretty much know you're not supposed to, if you're a police officer or if you work in some form of government and you have an agency vehicle, we all pretty much know by common sense, you shouldn't be driving your agency vehicle to, you know, just run to the dollar store, go to Walmart, go shopping. I mean, if we did that, then if we allowed that, or if departments or agencies allowed that, you'd have every one of them. None of them would ever pay for their own gas to go anywhere. I have to go out and put $20 in gas every time I go out in my vehicle, you know, but if they've got a county vehicle and they're all out driving it all the time and they never drive their own personal vehicle, that's against policy. And we all kind of know that. But if you don't have anybody that's enforcing those kinds of things, then everybody does it. And then nobody even really realizes that it's wrong. Well, they let me do it. You know?
I got away with it.
I got away with it. Yeah, well, they're doing it. And then everybody else will be doing it before you know it. I mean, look at Ben Fields. I'm sure he wasn't the only one up there in that courthouse doing the panky. Mama Duck says, what is required to be reported? A detailed list of all property and money seized, how the seized property was disposed of, identification of all seized property. I'm sure that's all of the above. All of the above, I'm sure. Let's see. Denise says, just a thought, Hillbilly. How about the vehicles that are confiscated through the rug seizures or drag racing, or country here in North Carolina keeps the vehicles and has a yearly auction? Just curious. I'm not sure what they do with the cars. I mean, do they even take them? Do they even seize them? I don't know. I have absolutely no idea, but I do know if we just think about all the busts that they've had just from the traffic stops and the rug busts that they've had. I was looking at one article yesterday that had a couple sheriff's deputies that were being given big accommodations, or whatever you call them. They were given big awards because they had busted this bust, netted $180,000. Now, I don't know if that $180,000 was in cash. I don't know if it was in rugs. I don't know if it was just a combined estimate, but it was in the newspaper. Big old article. They had a big old celebration down at the grill, the Pine Mountain Grill, and they were given big awards. Newspaper was brought in. I mean, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of rugs and pew-pews getting seized, and not just by the sheriff's department, you guys. You look at Jenkins City Police, Whitesburg City Police, Neon City Police. Where does all that stuff go? Where all this stuff that they're putting on Facebook and bragging about and showing everybody, look what we're getting off the streets, y'all. Where's it going? I mean, there's a theory out there that it's going right back on to the street because you had prosecutor's girlfriend out there traveling around with it. I mean, where'd she get weight like that? Because she had a ton of it in her. It's a good question. Makes you wonder. Anyway, let's get back over to it. Okay, so this is the audit, and this would be for Danny Webb's time, 2012, 2013. And we'll just read these main parts here, and then we'll go down and see what they recommend in the report. Okay, I guess I probably have to read it. The Auditor of Public Accounts has completed the audit of the Sheriff's Settlement 2012 taxes for the Letcher County Sheriff's for the period of April 12 through April 13. We have issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statement taken as a whole. Based upon the audit work performed, the financial statement is presented fairly in all material respects. Financial condition. The sheriff collected taxes of $6,625,292 for the districts for 2012 taxes, retaining commissions of $261,297 to operate the sheriff's office. So they had what they got out of all those taxes was $261,300. The sheriff distributed taxes of $6,347,040 to the districts for 2012 taxes. Taxes of $3,480 are due to the districts from the sheriff. Report comments. This is the first one. Sheriff should make daily deposits. The second one, the sheriff commingled funds between the 2012 franchise tax account and the 2012 fee account and 2012 unmined coal tax account. Number 3, the sheriff's office lacks adequate segregation of duties. That's been a very common one. We've seen that in all of them that we've read. Deposits. The sheriff's deposits were insured and collateralized by bank securities. All right. Here's the contents, the independent auditor's report, notes to financial statement, report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of the financial statement performed, comments and recommendations. All right. And this here just kind of tells you what their job is as an auditor. And what their responsibility is. Management is also responsible. Yeah, okay. And then there's the auditor's responsibility. We don't need to read all that. Basis for adverse opinion, as described in note 1 of the financial statement. The financial statement is prepared by the county sheriff on the basis of the accounting practices prescribed or permitted by the laws of Kentucky to demonstrate compliance with the Commonwealth of Kentucky's regulatory basis of accounting. All right, that doesn't really say anything. Adverse opinion. Referred to above does not. Okay. Opinion on regulatory. All right. So we don't have to read none of that. Other reporting. And this was Jim Ward was our judge executive at this time too. The same guy that was in that video that we just watched. Other reporting required by government auditing standards. And that says the exact same things that we just read. All right, here's all the money. The budget. Credits, exonerations, discounts. I was looking for those. See if they got forfeiture on here. But now remember, Danny Webb apparently turned in his forfeiture reports, it said, for at least 3 or 4 years anyway. Commissions. I don't know how to read these myself. So all I look for, I know how to read it, but it's a lot. You have to sit down and go through all those numbers, and I'm not a trained CPA. Let's see. Fund accounting. The sheriff's office tax collection duties are limited to acting as an agent for assessed property owners and taxing districts. A fund is used to account for the collection and distribution of taxes. A fund is a separate accounting entity with a self-balancing set of accounts. Fund accounting is designed to demonstrate legal compliance and to aid financial management by segregating transactions related to certain government functions or activities. The basis of accounting, cash investments, future delivery or purchase of obligations backed by full faith. I don't think that says anything. Custodial credit risk deposits. tax collection period, interest home. The Letcher County Sheriff earned, well, maybe we do need to read that. The real and personal property tax assessments were levied as of January 1st, 2012. Property taxes were billed to finance governmental services for the fiscal year ending June 2013. Liens are effective when the tax bills become delinquent. The collection period for these assessments was October 2012. Interest income. The Letcher County Sheriff earned $1,128 in interest income in 2012 taxes. As of April 5th, 2015, the sheriff owed $77 in interest to the Letcher County School District, $39 to Jenkins Independent School District, and $574 in interest to his fee account. Here's that fee. These are the accounts that they were talking about being commingled. The Letcher County Sheriff's Office, or the Letcher County Sheriff, collected $40,009 of 10% add-on fees allowed by KRS, whatever. This amount was used to operate the sheriff's office. Unrefundable duplicate payments and unexplained receipts. As of April 8th, 2015, the sheriff has unrefundable duplicate payments and unexplained receipts in the amount of $3,943. This amount is based on the sheriff collecting amounts due to his tax account and paying liabilities due. Once completed, he should deposit the remaining funds in an interest-bearing account. KRS whatever states that after 3 years, if the funds have not been claimed, they are presumed abandoned, and abandoned funds are required to be sent to the Kentucky State Treasurer. All right. Report on internal control. Let's see. We have audited in accordance with auditing standards. Let's see. Okay. In planning and performing our audit of the financial statement, we considered the Letcher County Sheriff's internal control over financial reporting to determine the audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances for the purpose of expressing our opinions on the financial statement, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the Letcher County Sheriff's internal control. Accordingly, we do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of the Letcher County Sheriff's internal control over financial reporting. Our consideration of internal control over financial reporting was for the limited purpose described in the preceding paragraph and was not designed to identify all deficiencies. So even if there were a whole bunch more flaws, their role in this audit was not designed to identify all of those flaws. So there was only a few things that they were looking at, and that's what they're saying. So even if there are a whole bunch of other things that are going on over here, that wasn't our job to identify those, is what they're saying. However, as described in the accompanying comments and recommendations, we identified a certain deficiency in internal control that we consider to be a material weakness. A deficiency in internal control exists when the design or operation of a control does not allow management or employees in the normal course of performing their assigned functions to prevent or detect and correct misstatements on a timely basis. If you all read the fiscal court audit with us, they said the exact same thing about that audit. A material weakness is a deficiency. I didn't finish reading it. Performing their assigned functions to prevent or detect or correct misstatements on a timely basis. A material weakness is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control, such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the entity's financial statement will not be prevented or detected or corrected on a timely basis. We consider the deficiency described in the accompanying comments and recommendations as item 2012-03 to be a material weakness. As compliance and other matters, as part of obtaining reasonable assurance about whether the Letcher County Sheriff's financial statement is free of material misstatement, we perform tests of its compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements, non-compliance with which could have a direct and material effect on the determination of financial statement amounts. That's so boring. The results of our test disclosed instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards and which are described in the accompanying comments as 1 and 2. Sheriff's response to the findings. The Letcher County Sheriff's responses to the findings identified in our audit are described in the accompanying comments. The sheriff's responses were not subjected to the auditing procedures applied in the audit, and we express no opinion on them. Okay, so let's go down here and see what his response was. Well, here's the number 1. The sheriff should make daily deposits. The sheriff did not deposit tax receipts daily. During our test of receipts, we discovered that some tax receipts had accumulated and were not deposited into an official bank account on a daily basis. The state local finance officer, under the authority of KRS whatever, has established minimum accounting requirements, which include depositing receipts intact on a daily basis and reconciling receipts to a daily checkout sheet. Therefore, we recommend the sheriff deposit receipts daily as required by the state local finance officer. Sheriff's response. Deposits are not made daily. However, the reports are balanced daily. Well, I mean, they just told you they weren't made daily. That's a good response. The sheriff commingled funds between the 2012 franchise tax account and the 2012 fee account and 2012 unmined coal tax account. On July 1st, 2013, the sheriff transferred $1,968 to the 2012 fee bank account. And on August 2nd, 2013, the sheriff transferred $4,549 to his 2012 unmined coal tax bank account. Both of these transfers came from the 2012 franchise tax bank account. KRS whatever states an official should not withdraw public funds for any purpose other than that for which they were received and deposited. We recommend the sheriff transfer adequate funds back to the 2012 franchise tax bank account to be included in the final settlement of 2012 taxes. Furthermore, if the accounts do not have the funds available to transfer, the sheriff should personally deposit $6,517 to cover the transfers. Wow.
It's his own money, doesn't it?
Yeah, they were saying if you don't have the money in those accounts, you better be putting it back out of your own money. Oh, sheriff's response. Funds were commingled for these accounts because there was an overpayment of funds from the 2012 UMC account, and a refund was due to the sheriff's office. Well, what's that mean? The monthly report showed that the regular franchise payment to that particular taxing district had a credit. So instead of waiting on the refund for the UMC to come from the taxing district, the refund was pulled from the franchise regular payment. This was done trying to make things easier on the taxing district, and all documentation was sent with the monthly report to the taxing district. You still can't do that. I mean, there's some things that you cannot do. But if they don't know that, like even though he was a big fancy pants experienced feller, you can still not know something,
Not that kind of stuff anyway, because that has to do with billing. It's a different set of skill. It's a different skill set.
Yes, it is completely. But it's nothing that you can't learn. But if you know that you are going to be responsible for something like this, it'd probably be a good thing to try and figure it out.
Yeah. Read up on it. Somebody
All
else.
right. Number 3, the sheriff's office lacks adequate segregation of duties. We won't read any of that other stuff on these other audits. We know right where to go to now. Number 3, the sheriff's office lacks adequate segregation of duties. During our review of internal control, we found the sheriff's office has a lack of adequate segregation of duties. A significant deficiency occurs when someone has custody over assets and the responsibility of recording financial transactions. The bookkeeper collects, deposits, and records all receipts and prepares and records all checks. In addition, the bookkeeper prepares all bank reconciliations. Good internal controls dictate that the same employee should not be handling, recording, and reconciling cash receipts. Furthermore, authorized check signers should be independent of receiving cash and preparing checks. A material weakness occurs when a significant deficiency or combination of significant deficiencies results in more than a remote likelihood that a material misstatement of the financial statement will not be prevented or detected by the entity's internal control. They're saying if something does get gone, how will anybody even know it? The sheriff's office failed to prepare reconciliations of taxes collected to taxes paid. We noted errors in the tax collections which could have been prevented or detected if the sheriff's office had prepared reconciliations of taxes collected to taxes paid. So they're saying it would have all been okay if they would have just done this one little thing, or at least that's what it sounds to me like. If the sheriff cannot segregate these duties, compensating controls such as the sheriff recounting daily deposits, agreeing deposits to daily tax reports, and agreeing deposits to the receipts ledger should be implemented. The sheriff should also review reconciliations of taxes collected to taxes paid. The sheriff should document these reviews by initialing and dating the bank deposit, daily checkout sheet, receipts ledger, and reconciliations. The sheriff could also periodically compare the bank reconciliations to the balance in the checkbook and document this by initialing and dating the bank reconciliation and the balance in the checkbook. We recommend the sheriff review office procedures to address this material weakness. Sheriff's response: we have already made adjustments the best that we can. Without the funds available to hire additional employees, the adjustments that we have made are so that the sheriff can oversee the receivables and the cash distributions. Well, I'm not sure what that means, but okay. All right, now this is the 2023 report for Mickey. This is the one. Let me go over here and see what everybody's saying.
Yeah, I like to hear what people say.
I know, I do too. I get while I'm reading though. I wish you could look at all of these and read them or put them up while I'm reading. All right, Howlin' Wolf. I don't think a sheriff's office around do things right. Jackson County had a great sheriff. They framed him for arresting a judge and a county clerk and ruined him for busting their crime ring. Well, I'm sure that does happen. Mama Duck. The audits are like IRS audit reports. They are not going to give you the information where all the money goes. Just errors. Thank you, Mama Duck. Hit that like button for us, y'all. Pull the CAFR report for where all the money goes, like a check register. So we've got to get that CAFR report. William DeFord. He is keeping grant money inside the department. He knows he doesn't have to account for or tell the public that's where SWAT teams and armored personnel vehicles come from. Well, I was getting ready to say we don't have nothing like that, but you know, I was going downtown Neon one day. We just left the house, and there was a big military vehicle going right through town, going up Hemp Hill. And they had officers hanging off the back of it. They were on the top of it. They were hanging off the side, hanging off the back. They even had
that was from the
That wasn't military. That was police. I don't know which one. I don't know if that thing came from state police or if it came from the county. I don't know who had that thing, but there was like 2 or 3 of them that went up there. Maybe just 2 of them big things. And they went up there and arrested somebody.
Huh.
I guess they thought he was going to fight them. I don't know.
Well, maybe they just wanted to practice their equipment.
I don't know, but it was a very surprising sight to see that kind of power going up it through Neon.
I thought they might have been from the National Guard out practicing or something.
Yeah, no, there's some guy up there, and I guess they were afraid to go knock on the door. They was out there with their bullhorns hollering, "Come out, come out." Of course, I had to whip my car around and follow them up there to see what they was doing. Nosy Rosie over here. Those are reclamation funds available that taxpayers can claim, I think. Love to hunt, love to hunt. Don't any of these criminals that they captured have any proof of how much money is on them? Or is that the gang catch us and say with less? Then less the offense. No squeaks, no squeals. Well, my girlfriend, I have a very good friend who her and her boyfriend was pulled over, and her boyfriend had just come back from Michigan, and his car was loaded down, or he had a whole bunch of stuff. And he had the big stuff. He had bad stuff, real hardcore stuff. And they got him out, and then they arrested him, and they arrested her too. And somehow she ended up with all the charges. They let him out. He got out on bond or something, and he left Kentucky and took off back up to Michigan, if I don't have my story mixed up. And because he took off, she was like, well, how's that fair? Why do I get his charges? And they were like, well, he's gone, so you're going to take them. So anyway, but she said she knew what they had. She knew exactly what they had. But she said whenever her discovery came back or whatever, and they were saying what she had, somebody down there had switched her stuff out. She said it didn't bother me none because the charge was less. Whatever they switched it out for, the charge wasn't as big as if it would have been, what she really did have. She said somebody switched it out and it wasn't the same amount either. And she worked down there for 3 years, so she knew exactly what they was doing. Lori Dean, they need to cut off all of each department's grants and funding until they get this mess cleared up. Police officials should be the last people you'd expect to be dishonest. I was married to a kingpin daughter. I've seen and heard it all. Oh, yeah. Well, somebody gave me a tip today, and they said to look into Larry Collins. Who all out there knows who Larry Collins is? I said, well, who's that? And they said, he was the judge before Jim Wood. Or I guess that's his name. James Woods. Was that his name? He was the judge before Kevin. And apparently they said that he was the only judge that had been district and circuit judge. Anyway, he ended up down in Lexington, and he got charged with a whole bunch of crimes here, went to Lexington and had a pew-pew on him and got charged being a felon with a pew-pew. So I'm going to look into Larry Collins. Yep. All right, so let's look at Mickey's. And I'm just going to go all the way down to the bottom, y'all. We don't have to read all that crap, I don't think. Let's see. This one might be a little bit different. Let's see what it says. Their statement is. We don't have to read all that. Okay, so here's the receipts. Letcher County, Mickey Stines, former sheriff. Former sheriff? What? Statement of receipts, disbursements, and excess fees, regulatory basis for the year ended December 31st, 2023. There's $15,000. That's probably a grant, I'd say, or something. Kentucky Law Enforcement Foundation Program Fund. Are you looking at this, Elmy?
Okay, what is it?
Well, these are the numbers. So you got the receipts, interest, borrowed money. I was looking for forfeiture, if it'll show any of the forfeiture funding. Employer share retirement, employer social security, deputy's gross salary. What? Deputy's gross salary, $77,000. Court security, $106,000. Office gross salaries, $64,000. School resource officer, $42,000. KLEPFP is $13,000. And then you got employees, so they're making good money down there at the sheriff's department.
This is not 2023.
Yeah. They've got employers share social security, employee benefits. So the employer pays some of their social security, $31,327. Employers share retirement, $109,000. Employer paid health insurance, $33,000. Unemployment insurance, $5,000, almost $6,000. Contracted services, accounting services, $4,355. Vehicle maintenance and repairs, almost $4,500. Materials and supplies, office materials and supplies, $8,537. Uniforms, $432. Here you go. Gasoline, $26,000. Because they drive their deputy cars all over the place. They don't ever drive their own vehicles. I don't think I've ever seen one drive their own vehicle. Have you, Mom? Even out, seeing them out somewhere? They're always in their sheriff's deputy car if they got one.
Well, I don't know if they do or not. It seems to me like that's what I see them in. But then I probably wouldn't recognize them if they was out of uniform.
Yeah, well, I've never seen one out of uniform be in their own vehicle myself. But you never know. Let's see. Disbursements, operating disbursements, postage, 7,005, might as well, 7.5 thousand. Bond, 1.5 thousand. Phones and radios, $7,032. Training services, $2,529. They never did no training, so I don't know what that is. I'm just kidding. Water services, $427. I'd like to know what the water bill was that year that they had the leak in the women's cell. It was like that for 6 months, pouring water out, never stopped. Who paid that bill? And where's those numbers? I'd like to see them. Juror expense, $102. Copy machine, $800. Property tax expense, $5,453. Audit and public notice, $378. Medical, $128. Miscellaneous, $3,940. Well, that's better than what we saw in the fiscal court audit. Do y'all remember what that miscellaneous was? They had $2 million in the miscellaneous. Well, okay, where's that money? What'd you spend that money on? I'd like to know. State advancement, $110,000. Total disbursements, $667,884. Training incentive benefit. What was it? Excess fees, $172,000. Training incentive benefit, $3,737. I don't know what that means. Looks like maybe they pay them more or pay them to go to training. Is that what that is? A incentive benefit? I don't know. Excess fees due county for 2023, $168,441. What is this up here? What's the top of this? Well, it doesn't say in or out. They should have at least labeled that so we know. All right. I think that's crazy. So they must pay for everybody a cell phone. Which, I mean, I'd love to have a phone.
I want somebody else to pay the bill.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I was sitting here thinking when I go down and pay my taxes, go down to sheriff's office and you write a check for your property taxes. You never think about, you know,
where it goes.
Go or what they're. Well, I just thought that it somehow had this magic place that it went and then they used it to run the county. But that's not really the way it is. It might have been a pretty good system when it started, because there wouldn't have been so much money. But now that there's such a huge volume of money in taxes and everything, it starts making you wonder about things.
Yeah, it sure does. And I mean, I don't see how anybody can even get upset with people asking questions about this stuff, because if you don't, I mean, people don't usually, people don't do the right thing when nobody's looking. You know what? That's one thing I try to tell my kids. I want you to try and do the right thing when nobody's looking. That's the most important time to do the right thing. Because if you don't, you're compromising any kind of principles or morals or values that you have. I don't want to go to jail for stealing a Reese cup.
Ooh, well, you might would.
Well, I'm just saying, it all starts somewhere, It starts somewhere.
I know.
Whether it's a $5 cup of coffee or something, it starts somewhere. And people think, oh, it's just a little white lie. Ain't nobody gonna know. Ain't nobody gonna care. But then it grows and it grows and it grows.
Yeah.
All right. So KRS basis of accounting. I don't want to read this all, but directs the fiscal court to collect any amount due from the sheriff as determined by the audit. Oh, so anything that's due goes to the fiscal court. KRS, whatever, requires the sheriff to pay the governing body of the county any fees, commissions, and other income of his or her office, including income from investments, which exceed the sum of his or her maximum salary as permitted by the Constitution, and other reasonable expenses, including compensation of deputies and assistants, by March 15th of each year. KRS, whatever, requires an outgoing sheriff to make a final settlement with the fiscal court of his county by March 15th, immediately following the expiration of his term of office. The financial statement has been prepared on a regulatory basis of accounting. Okay, I don't want to read all that. Interest receivable, cash and investments, employee retirement system. Well, let's read this. We might need to read that. Okay, cash and investments. The statute authorizes the sheriff's office to invest in obligations of the United States and of its agencies and instrumentalities, obligations and contracts for future delivery or purchase of obligations backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, obligations of any corporation of the United States government, bonds, or certificates of indebtedness of the state. Golly. I mean, who can even understand all that mumbo jumbo? Sheriff's office has elected to participate pursuant to KRS, the statute, in the County Employees Retirement System, CERS, which is administered by the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority. This is a cost-sharing, multiple employer defined benefit pension plan, which covers all eligible full-time employees and provides for retirement, disability, and death benefits to plan members. Benefit contributions and provisions are established by statute. The sheriff's contribution for calendar year 21 was $85,122. Calendar 22 was $70,744, and calendar year 23 was $109,490. Non-hazardous covered employees are required to contribute 5% of their salary to the plan. Non-hazardous covered employees who begin participation on or after 2008 are required to contribute 6% of their salary, to be allocated as follows. 5% will go to members' account and 1% will go to the insurance fund. Let's see. I'm not going to read all that. Benefits fully vest on reaching 5 years of service for non-hazardous employees. Aspects of benefits for non-hazardous employees include retirement after 27 years of service or age 65. Non-hazardous employees who begin participation on or after September 1st must meet the Rule 87. Member's age plus years of service credit must equal 87, and the member must be a minimum of 57 years of age, or the member is age 65 with a minimum of 60 months service credit. All right. County's contribution rate for non-hazardous employees was 26%, 79% for the first 6 months, and $23 something percent for the last 6 months. Well, if they don't have anything, they have good benefits.
Yes, the benefits are decent.
Yeah, and that was for non-hazardous employees. For the hazardous employees, they have a cash balance plan. The cash balance plan is known as a hybrid plan because it has characteristics of both a defined benefit plan and a defined contribution plan. Members in the plan contribute a set percentage of their salary each month to their own accounts. Hazardous members contribute 8% of their annual creditable compensation and 1% to the health insurance fund, which is not credited to the member's account and is not refundable. The employer contribution rate is set annually by the board based on an actuarial valuation. Okay. So include retirement after 20 years of service. So aspects of benefits for hazardous employees, they can retire after 20 years or age 55. That's why you had all them people retiring when Danny went out of office. They'd been there 20 years, probably. For hazardous employees who begin participation on or after 2008, aspects of benefits include retirement after 25 years of service or the minimum age of 60. Okay. The county's contribution rate for hazardous employees was 49%. You might as well say 50%. So the county was paying 50% of their stuff for the first 6 months and 44% for the last 6 months. Well, that's interesting. Paid by insurance fund. So they have a fund, an insurance fund that will pay for their benefits, or a percentage of their benefits. Okay. And I don't want to read all that. If anybody wants to read it, you can go read it off the Patreon when I put it up there. All right, so let's read what they have to say. For retired members receiving a monthly benefit based on at least 48 months of service, pay $5,000 death benefit. So if they've worked there 2 years, they get a $5,000 pay.
If they die.
Yeah. The Letcher County Sheriff's Office. Here, let me go back up here. Direct borrowing. During calendar year 23, the Sheriff's Office received $110,000 under the State Advancement Program to defray necessary official expenses and to apply the payment of the salaries of the sheriff or the sheriff's deputies and assistance from county fee system. Principal was due on or before January 15th at 0% interest. In the event of default, the cabinet may obtain payment from the sheriff, his sureties, and the sheriff in his official capacity. The balance of the state advancement was paid in full on January 3rd, 2024 from the 23 fee account. So they paid to defray necessary official expenses and to apply to the payment of the salaries of the sheriff and the deputies. So they used that for their pay. All right. Kentucky Law Enforcement Foundation Program Fund. The Letcher County Sheriff's Office was awarded a grant under the Kentucky Law Enforcement Foundation Fund from the Commonwealth of Kentucky Department of Criminal Justice Training. Under the program, eligible officers received up to $3,100 annually as provided by KRS, whatever. During the period January 1st, 2023 through December 23, the Letcher County Sheriff's Office received $15,381. So I guess that's, I don't even know what that's for. For training, it says.
Well, yeah, I think sometimes some of them want to go to the academy.
Yeah, well, they have to be a road officer. Fiduciary accounts, an escrow account. The former Letcher County Sheriff deposited outstanding checks into a custodial bank account. When statutorily required, the Sheriff's Office will turn over the escrowed funds to the Kentucky State Treasurer as unclaimed property. The escrowed amounts were as follows. 2021, $975. The former Letcher County Sheriff's deposited cash evidence into a custodial bank account. These funds are held until a resolution in the form of a court order is received. The funds are then remitted in accordance with the court order. The account had a beginning balance of $14,037 with receipts of $2,500 and $11,100 of disbursements for calendar year 23. The account balance was $5,000. Drug forfeiture account. All right, guys, here it is. The Letcher County Sheriff's Office had a rug forfeiture account with a beginning balance of $3,791. The former sheriff received funds of $11,251. That's it. And dispersed $5,724 during calendar year 2023. The cash balance was $9,318 as of December 31st, 2023. The use of these monies is determined by court order granting forfeiture funds to the sheriff's office. Therefore, they are not included as part of excess fees. Holy cow.
It doesn't sound like very much money.
Well, that doesn't sound right at all. They were getting all kind. I mean, they had that much money in one day. What they were getting off of the. Oh my God! Do you all see that? Did you hear the same thing I did? $11,251. Canine account. The rug dog account. Letcher County Sheriff's Office had an official bank account for donated monies. There was a ton of money that was donated for that dog and that canine program. I remember they were soliciting donations all off Facebook. for donated monies from various individuals and civic groups for the purchase and maintenance of a canine unit. The beginning balance as of January 1st, 23 was $754. The former sheriff received $949 and dispersed $481. During the calendar year 2023, the account had an ending balance of $1,222 as of December 23. These funds are used to enhance law enforcement activities and not to supplement the sheriff's office normal operating budget. Therefore, they are not included as a part of excess fees. Federal forfeiture account. The Letcher County Sheriff's Office had a federal forfeiture account with a beginning balance of $47. These funds were from federal agencies for the Letcher County Sheriff's Office share of assets seized as a result of joint investigations with other local, state, and federal agencies. The former sheriff did not have any receipts or disbursements during calendar year 2023. The account had an ending balance of $47 as of December 31st, 2023. These funds are used to enhance law enforcement activities and not to supplement the operating budget. Donation account. Letcher County Sheriff's Office had a donation account for donated monies from various individuals and civic groups. The beginning balance as of January 2023 was $1,500. The former sheriff received $2 in interest and did not have any disbursements from the account. The account has an ending balance of $1,502. These funds are used to enhance law enforcement. Okay. These numbers are awful low, guys. Report on internal control. Sheesh. All right, so let's see what they say. We read all of that on the last one. We want to see the findings. Okay, number 1, material weakness. The sheriff's office did not have adequate segregation of duties. That's a common theme here. This is a repeat finding and was included in the prior year audit report as finding number 1. The former sheriff's bookkeeper collected payments from customers and prepared receipts, prepared deposits, and posted receipts to the receipts ledger. In addition, the bookkeeper prepared disbursement checks, distributed payroll checks, posted checks to the disbursements ledger, and prepared the monthly bank reconciliations. The former sheriff put some controls in place, such as assigning 2 employees to review and initial daily checkout sheets. And all disbursement checks were signed by 2 people, one being the former sheriff. There was not sufficient evidence available that would show that the former sheriff or another employee periodically reviewed deposits, ledgers, invoices, or bank reconciliations to offset the risk caused by the lack of segregation of duties. The former sheriff stated they did not have enough funds to hire additional personnel to segregate duties. The lack of sufficient oversight could result in undetected misappropriation of assets. How do you find it? How do you detect it if it's so easy for one person to hide? An undetected misappropriation of assets and inaccurate financial reporting to external agencies such as the Department for Local Government. KRS whatever requires each county treasurer and each county officer who receives or disperses state funds to keep an accurate account of receipts and disbursements, showing a daily balance of receipts and disbursements. KRS whatever requires all county officers handling state funds other than taxes to make an annual report to the Department for Local Government showing receipts and disbursements, and to make other financial statements as the Department for Local Government requires. Adequate segregation of duties is a basic internal control necessary to ensure the accuracy and reliability of financial reports. The segregation of duties over various accounting functions, such as preparing deposits, recording receipts and disbursements, and preparing bank reconciliation, or the implementation of compensating controls is essential for providing protection from asset misappropriation and inaccurate financial reporting. All right, read that again, Mom. Can you read that?
No, I can't see it.
You
It's
can't
too
see it.
small on my screen because I couldn't get my big computer on. Oh, I can see it. Where? That KRS 46 0.02.
Just start read that.
Adequate segregation of duties is a basic internal control necessary to ensure the accuracy and reliability of financial reports. The segregation of preparing bank reconciliation or the implementation of compensating controls is essential for providing protection from asset misappropriation and inaccurate financial reporting. Additionally, proper segregation of duties would protect employees in the normal course of performing their daily responsibilities. We recommend to adequately protect employees and prevent inaccurate financial reporting or misappropriation. She must have went off someplace.
Yeah, I'm here. I had to go grab me something to drink.
Got to scroll it up, sister.
Okay.
Assets, the sheriff's office should segregate the duties within the office. If this is not possible due to lack of funds, the sheriff's office should implement strong oversight over these areas, either by an employee independent of those functions or by the sheriff. An oversight or review should be evidenced by the individual's signature or initials on the source documentation. Former sheriffs respond, we do the best we can with limited funds and take all precautions that we can. Gosh, that sounds like something I'd say when I didn't want to answer.
We do the best we
can. I just do the best I can.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's not a really great answer. And that's the end of it, you guys. That's the very end. It looks like that's a very big, and they just left it at that. They just left it at that because there ain't nothing else that they can do. They had a very limited scope. Their job on their audit is very limited. And duty 15, the police had my car, got towed from McDonald. My grandson was pulled over. It was towed by Ronnie Morgan's. And when I went to get it, he wanted $7,600 for my car. I offered $1,000 and he said no. That's how they do it. They tow your vehicle and then you can't afford to get it out. And they just take possession of it. Well, where is all this damn money is what I want to know. Where is all this money? And what did they do with all the rugs? So did you all see all the pictures we put up? I could do it again, but it's a ton of stuff that they confiscate off of people. We're talking, well, in that one bust, it was $180,000 bust in one day, the big bust that Mickey was part of with Chad Brown. They said that was the biggest bust in history or something for Letcher County or something like that. It was a huge bust. They got pounds and pounds. What do they do with all that stuff? I mean, I've still not seen anything in writing that even tells us what they do with it. And there's not a room down there big enough to house it all. And we're going to look at another case tomorrow, because we've been on here too long tonight. But in Alabama, the grand jury has recommended shutting the whole police department down in a certain town down there because one of their dispatchers was their evidence room was not secure at all, not at all. And it had a hole in the wall, and they were using a broom, and they'd stick their head through the wall and use that broom to jimmy the lock. And anybody who wanted to could go right on in there, or anybody who, and they didn't have any kind of, like, they didn't care who went in there as long as it was one of them, whatever. Well, they had the dispatcher exposed to a great big thing of rugs that were sitting there on his desk, and he died. They came in and found him dead.
What, did he eat him?
No, he just got exposed because of the lack of training.
He didn't. Yeah.
They arrested every one of them cops. They had like 5 or 6 of the police officers that were arrested, and they even arrested one of them's wife because they were taking the rugs and stuff out of the police department and selling it all on the street. And everyone were complicit in it just because they had one that was actually the one out there reeling. Everybody was involved in it. Everybody that was at that police department. It looks like, anyway.
Well, I got to go to bed.
Yeah, I do too. We got us a new member.
Well, goody. Bye, everybody.
All right. Well, before you leave, Zelmy, tell us what you think about these audits.
Well, I guess they're better than nothing. But they have much to be desired, because I think there's a lot more money that's confiscated than what they're saying.
Well, we see
one guy up here that's my friend, and he sold some marijuana to a boy. I mean, we all knew that he'd been selling drugs forever and an age. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So he's a nice guy. I liked him. And they came in and took everything he had. And they took money that didn't have any connection with drugs. They took every cent that was in the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you don't like banks too well and you had a cash box or a safe or something that you kept your money in instead of putting it in a savings account, they took it too.
Angel Fire says, where I used to work, employers were always looking for this and checks made out to cash. Yeah. I would just really,
their banking practices are as bad as mine.
Well, when you run for an office, like, I feel bad. These people all have kids. I heard somebody say something today. They felt like people were shaming them for speaking out, and they were trying to speak out. And she was like, well, they all say, well, they've got kids. And she said, I feel bad for their kids. And I was like, yeah, I feel bad for their kids too. But we've all got kids. Most of all of us have kids. All these people that they're arresting, most of them have kids. The victims of their crimes have kids. That's not an excuse. You're not off limits for your
Well,
crime
they need
as misconduct because you've got kids.
Well, they need some procedures and so forth, and I don't even know how they'd get them started. And then when somebody takes a particular job, if they don't have the skills necessary to do that job, they need to send them to school to get those skills.
That cop that pulled all that crap on me and started every bit of it, the one that's now on the sheriff's department and now's got his daughter working for the sheriff's department. I was terrified when I saw her. She looks like she's about 19 years old. And she went to walk out of the gas station, had a big pew-pew right on her hip. What is she? I didn't think she a deputy, a full deputy at that age. Well, she's just barely out of high school. And I wouldn't want her having a pew-pew. I mean, they don't, and here you go. It's Sheriff Billy Jones that have made these new hires. Well, that ain't no different. When Terry Adams gave us a new sheriff after Mickey did what he did, I personally would have liked him to have picked somebody outside of this sheriff's department, because Billy Jones was still a part of Mickey's sheriff's department regardless. So he gets put up in as sheriff, and now you've got Borums and that other one down there, and now they're hiring their kids. Well, that's just furthering the nepotism that we have problems with already. I mean, that's not great hiring for.
Well, I wouldn't want my child to be up there, a deputy, and at 20 years old packing a pistol.
Well, she looked like a baby, and I'm sure she don't have much training, and that big old pew-pew on her hip. That was absolutely terrifying. But anyway, all right. Well, we will close her down, I guess. Close her down. Tammy says, seems like this police department was a racial department. I don't know if that's the word you meant to use or not. Policy and procedures need to be in place and enforced. Yeah. All right. Miss Denise says, good night, sweet tater. I enjoyed the visit, Hillbilly. Hope everyone has a good weekend. Later, y'all. Bye, Mommy.
Bye, baby.
I'll see you all tomorrow. And we'll pick it back up then. Thanks for being with us. Peace out, Girl Scout.